This is one of the best ways that you can interact with a computer when you need to use a pen. Not the brand, but the idea of a pen tablet, as opposed to pen display. Pen display is when you have a digital pen and you can write directly on the screen. A pen tablet is when you have a digital pen and then you can write on a tablet that does not have a screen, but your cursor is moving right there. So there's a hand-to-eye coordination. For anyone who's serious about any kind of work and is sitting on a desk as opposed to being on the go, you need a relatively large screen. So what are the benefits of this? Well, you can write, this model has multi-touch on it, which I have toggled off, and it has a few shortcut keys. If you watched one of my previous videos where I explain what a digital pen is, a digital pen is a user interface and it can replace your mouse. A tap is a click, and you can have a right click, and you can have additional 2 shortcut keys on the pen that would actually change the function of the pen as you're writing with it. And it has further shortcut keys, and in this case, a dial that you can use to zoom or do anything else. It can allow me to be seated in an upright posture, and I can be just focusing on my material in somewhat of an ergonomic setup, and I have my keyboard and mouse at arm reach. Going back to the hand-eye coordination, notice how I mapped one of my buttons. When I click it, I can go ahead and scroll and pan, and the other one would be to zoom, and that helps me to really be able to navigate everything without even reaching for a mouse. And you can have multiple screens, and the reason why this is beautiful is because you can also have a toggle display button, and once you press it here, you can just switch the cursor from being mapped to this screen to the next one, and then the next one, and then back to the screen, say if you have 3. On the Wacom tablets, you can click on a window and then toggle display, and that window would also move to the next screen. That also eliminates further need to reach out for the mouse. It's nice to have the mouse just as a backup or whenever you want to kind of change your posture, and that's why I have it. But technically with this setup, you don't need it. I've decided to not buy another Cintiq Pro and to stick to this one, which I've had since 2015 and it's still working nicely. You can see the surface is a little bit abraded, and you can see a little bit erosions because of how often I've used it, and I'm using it with a felt nib, which is pretty cool. So the advice I'd give you if you decided to go for this specific setup is to make sure that whether you're right-handed or left-handed, to angle the tablet in a way that your wrist is moving this way. So when I'm moving, you can see that this motion enables me to write a properly straight line that's appropriately horizontal, and that is a really important trick, and it took me many years to realize. And you need to resist the urge to have a perfect setup where it's like everything is parallel on your desk and it's all lined up, because it just simply doesn't work. You need to be able to hinge your elbow the right way. And so if you're right-handed, you're going to tilt it this way. And if you're left-handed, you're going to tilt it the other way. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes for your brain to adjust to the size of the font, because you're writing on a much smaller screen here than that one. And so my other advice is make sure to get as large of a tablet as possible if you are using a large screen, and to avoid getting the largest tablet if you're using a laptop. For 14-inch and 13-inch laptops, you want to go for a medium size. I would avoid the small size unless you're only doing touch-ups, like photo touches. It really won't matter at all. It might be more portable, but if you're doing actual writing, or you're doing drawing with details where you need to go to a line and pick up exactly from that point, for example. So you can see I want to say pick up from where the F was and then continue, just hypothetically. Or like I'm drawing a circle and I want to come back to this point and then kind of connect it to that point. That kind of hand-eye coordination benefits from a relatively similar size or close size. Once you reach about the 15-inch size, that's pretty good for larger screens. One thing to do note is sometimes the strokes will be a little bit slow. You might have some irregular lines, and that usually happens when processing power is slow or computer's overloaded, and you usually need to restart the program. So I don't think it's inherent to the technology. I think it's inherent to the interfacing with a MacBook. I faced less of an issue with Windows. And those are things to just keep in mind. Does it matter? Does it affect your use? No. Is it important to know right off the bat? I think it's very important so that you can ignore some of those things and just keep going, because they're not a fault of the interface, and they're very minimal. I like my stroke to be perfect because I actually like using traditional pens, and I like fountain pens to be specific, and I like the flow, and I absolutely like to throw my ideas. For example, this note here was done in less than an hour or so, and you can see there's a certain level of detail to it because I sent this as a handout, and I just need to flow. I usually don't like to do things on parts. I like to just sit down, finish it, and move on to the next thing. So that's my take on the Wacom Intuos and how I use it on a daily basis. This is a crude kind of video. I'll make a how-to video after with a more detailed kind of in-depth editing that will show you how to set up yours, and maybe what brand and what thing to use, and then compare them with smaller pen displays, which can also be used as pen tablets for your other screens and things of that sort. Please leave your questions and comments, and have fun being productive.